You are tuned in to another edition of Americana Music Profiles, brought to you by Americana Rhythm Music Magazine and AmericanaMusicMagazine.com. I'm your host, Greg Tutwiler. Let's jump right in to the next exciting interview. New Zealand's Aly Cook is a multi-award-winning recording artist whose Americana music lands somewhere between country blues and roots. She has twice been named a finalist for Next New Zealand Woman of the Year in 2011 and 2016 for her contributions to the arts. The first single, Red Dirt Road Trip, from her latest album, Caught in the Middle, landed number one on both the Country Songs Top 40 Australian Airplay chart and the Tasmanian Independent Country Airplay chart. Aly is my guest on this edition of Americana Music Profiles. Thanks for joining us, Aly.
Yeah, great to be here. Nice to be chatting to you, Greg.
Absolutely, and good morning to you. It's always fun. We were chatting a minute ago to make these connections from top to bottom.
Yes, and good evening to you in my past.
That's right.
I'm in your future.
Yeah, right. I don't know. It's always fun to make that realization. So, but I appreciate you jumping on with us this morning. You are in New Zealand. What part of New Zealand?
Okay, so I'm in a place called Tasman, which is at the top of the South Island of New Zealand. So there's kind of like a great big bay that you can see at the top of the South Island, and I'm inside there.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And you've got a couple music projects that we want to talk about today. Caught in the Middle is your latest personal release. Came out September 2019, and the newer one, I think you said, was about the same time, but is kind of on its way out now too, is Asquith. Did I say that right? Asquith Sessions?
Yep, Asquith Sessions. Yeah. So
okay.
Both were done. Both were done at the same time. So in the Caught in the Middle album, I've had a few singles out from that now, and I've got a few more to come. So Red Dirt Road Trip did very well for me, and I put out a pre-runner, which was actually a cover of Lucinda Williams' Steal Your Love. I did that as a pre-runner song, and then we had Red Dirt Road Trip, and we've had Not Pretty Enough, a duet with Sharon O'Neill, who's quite a well-known artist down here that sung on it.
Yeah.
And that's a version of Casey Chambers' is Not Pretty Enough. So there's a couple of covers on this album, 9 originals and 3 covers. And then one of the originals, Red Dirt Road Trip's been out, and another one, Cold Wind.
Yeah.
And so the album's been a culmination of my writing with Buzz and Kay Bidstrup, who Buzz is the producer of my album.
Okay.
He was in a very well-known Australian band called The Angels, which toured the United States as a band called Angel City.
Right, I kind of remember,
back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yep. So he was the drummer of Angel City, and so he's like rock royalty over in Australia.
Yeah,
and
cool.
We started writing together, and that's how the album came about. Was me travelling back and forth, and he also runs an outfit called Uncle Jimmy Thumbs Up, which is works with Indigenous kids, and I went out into the outback and worked with Indigenous kids with him with music. And then Buzz and his wife Kay, I started just writing with them every time I was in Australia, and we gradually got enough for an album, and so I decided to go with them as a producer and put those songs onto a collection of works.
I had a chance to watch the video for the Red Dirt Road Trip. I love the name, and the video is so cool. I like your style. Is that kind of the style that you play in when you play, that kind of rootsy Americana alternative country flavor?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I love country and I love blues and roots music, and I guess actually when I was younger, probably people like Neil Finn as well, but Neil Young, I listened to a lot of his writing and loved Neil Young, and loved people like Bonnie Raitt as well, which, that comes through in what I do, I think. And so I'm quite sort of eclectic in my flavours, so the album is eclectic. I just tend to write where it falls, and Red Dirt Road Trip was really a signature song for me, because I'm always travelling across in Australia, and of course there's lots of long red dirt roads, because that's how Australia is. Getting anywhere involves one, and I love that outback sort of Australia where you get that beautiful red dirt. Yeah.
Did you grow up with musical influences? When did this music journey start for you?
Oh, absolutely. My father was a opera singer with the Guildhall School of Music in London before they emigrated to New Zealand, and he played violin as well. And so I was raised in a quite musical household and started classical piano from the age of about 7, 8. And so I started, I guess, my musical training on classical piano, and then, much to my father's horror, moved to guitar because it seemed like a cooler thing to learn.
Yeah.
So that's, that was the basis. But I'm glad for that training, because it makes me think of things musically from the piano, like you think of it laid out on a piano. So it's kind of like quite good for your chordal structures, understanding of music theory and things. So so always music. I think I got snuck into a pub where the age limit was like 20 when I was like 15 to sing with a pub band.
Oh, really? Cool. Okay.
So just hide out the back and come out and sing, and then hide out the back again.
Yeah.
So I've always, sung, and So
when did it feel like something you wanted to pursue as a career? Was there a moment you remember feeling like that?
Yeah, well, I think really when I travelled across Australia when I was 19, and I was really starting to write a lot and play a lot of, I was just playing all the time. And then I got a job with a promoter writing posters up for tours of famous bands.
Oh, cool.
And from there, I went from there to, booking the tours and doing the publicity and working for major promoters. And I got sort of pulled away from my own kind of aims, I think. Mm-hmm. But I did it on the proviso that that it would teach me about the industry from the other side.
Sure.
And I kind of got stuck there. And so my life has been, and still is today, rotating between being a musician and being a publicist and tour coordinator and promoter. So I've, run wine festivals and then worked as tour coordinator and publicist for, like major tours. Like 2014, I worked on Andrea Bocelli through New Zealand and Australia, and
oh, cool.
Tommy Emmanuel in 2017, his tour down here as the publicist in New Zealand. So I work constantly on both sides of the industry, and then started P2 with my partner, P2 Artist Promotions, as a way to offer a low-cost service to independents like me, because when I went to use other publicists, I found them really expensive, and I thought there needs to be a space where people can afford to actually get some interviews done for them and get a press release out. So so that was the whole aim of P2, and so we offer a really reasonable service to up-and-coming artists and, people who want to get their music out there. So so I work between the two. Yeah. Okay. So it has its advantages and its disadvantages, but but it's good.
So Caught in the Middle is that your first? Do you have others that you've released prior to that CD project? Yeah.
So I was 47 then, so it's 10 years ago. At 10 years ago, at 47 years of age, I decided that I would finally fulfill that goal.
Wow.
And I would put an album out.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I thought, I need to get my own album out. And I crowdfunded, I think it was $20,000 US from 256 people from 17 countries.
Wow.
And I put together my first album, and then I crowdfunded videos off that. Then I crowdfunded an my second album, the first album was Brand New Day.
Mm-hmm.
I produced that here in New Zealand with Alan Jansen. My first 2 albums were with Alan Jansen, so he would be known over in the US for a smash hit called How Bizarre by the OMC.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Came out.
Yeah.
How Bizarre, yeah.
Right.
So that was, the producer of my first 2 albums co-wrote that song and produced it. It was probably one of, other than Lord, is one of New Zealand's biggest kind of hits, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked with him for the 2 albums, which were both crowdfunded, and both those albums were done in a built-up way musically. So I would lay down the tracks with my acoustic guitar and then come away from Auckland, and then Alan would get in other people to play on the tracks afterwards.
Okay.
And that was where Caught in the Middle was quite different. I wanted that experience of going in the studio with all the musicians, eyeballing everyone through the window and actually doing the whole thing live.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the difference with Caught in the Middle. It was very much more like that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the tracks were done like that, or together with live musicians in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And even though there might have been the odd overdub here and there, it was all down live together, and it gives it a totally different feel. I got what I expected from that experience, and really loved it.
I would think it would give you a different energy. Musicians feeding off of each other in that sense.
It does, and what you tend to do is you'll do one whole take of the song as though you were performing it live somewhere, like work it out, and all the guys will have charts, and then you'll do another run of the song, and then you'll listen back to both takes and go, oh, that one had more energy than that one, so you'll pick the whole take that actually sounds like it has the best to it, and so it's a totally different way to record, and you're capturing all that spirit, I think, from people that are in the room that you just wouldn't necessarily get when they come in one at a time and you're not even there, so it's kind of a different, I mean, both processes are used in the industry, but it's a process I don't think I'd go back from now. I really love that whole thing of recording it down live.
Do you have a favorite song yourself from that record?
Yeah, I've got a single that's coming, that's a very rootsy song that's called We Hold Up Half the Sky, and it's a woman empowerment song, and I'm about to start a podcast actually called Ahead of the Curves with a friend, which is a podcast for recovery, and it's about women, women in general, but we will be interviewing men, but it's about just lifting up women hold up half the sky, and different women in positions of power that are doing things to help people in the recovery from COVID. So it's very much on the forefront of everyone's minds at the moment. So so We Hold Up Half the Sky is a woman empowerment song, and it's kind of like my personal favourite of the album,
that's
and
cool.
that will be coming during 2021 with the video.
I'm guessing that the New Zealand music community was affected like everywhere else. Did you all feel a slowdown or stop like everybody else?
Oh, we are still affected.
Okay.
I mean,
like everyone,
New Zealand's borders are entirely closed, so nobody can come into New Zealand except New Zealanders returning to New Zealand. So there's no, we're hoping very soon that we'll see by the end of the year or early 21 that we'll see a travel bubble with Australia, but New Zealand has no cases in the community.
Oh wow!
So we've actually we've eradicated it completely. The only cases that we have are at the border, where they're inside quarantine facilities where they're coming in, but out in the community there is no cases now, and we had it free for 100 days. Then we had a little resurgence where one got away from the the disease got out from the quarantine facility. We think that's how it started. Nobody really knows. We had a little resurgence, and that's back under control now, and now we're back to no cases in the community again.
That's awesome.
So therefore, like we had total lockdown in New Zealand. So we actually locked down, everything locked down. Nobody went to work. Construction, everything stopped. It was like the streets were dead and everything stopped. Not only did it wipe out COVID, but it wiped out the blues, colds and everything. Nobody's got anything this year because it just wiped it right out,
Sure.
I guess we're small enough population to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So we went for an elimination strategy, which was to eliminate COVID from the country.
Uh-huh.
So consequently, we have no touring artists coming through here. I was working on a tour of Andy Kim, who's an a Canadian artist.
Sure.
People know him for Rock Me Gently, like one of those big smash hits of his. And he was coming down here, and I was a tour coordinator for that tour. And I had to cancel the entire tour. It was just massive cancelling, big venues all the way through and accommodation and just, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so, so there's hardly any gigging at all. It's just beginning again now. People are, going in small gigs. I've done one or two small house concerts, less than 100 people. But we can't leave or come back into New Zealand, basically, unless you want to pay $3,100 for your 14-day quarantine on the way back in.
Wow.
So you can't leave New Zealand.
Right.
So everyone's kind of stuck here, and we're living on ourselves, really.
So you're basically entertaining yourselves. You can't entertain.
We're entertaining ourselves. Well, certainly people went online and did all that sort of thing.
Right.
We were very good here. The government put in $37 million into helping artists. So some of us got grants just to help see us through, or I was lucky enough to receive an APRA sustainability grant, which APRA's like your ASCAP, some outfit.
Right.
Just to keep me songwriting in between. So we've been lucky in that department, but it's been tough, and it's really slammed our music industry to pieces,
Yeah. No, everywhere,
so
and everybody I talk to. And
nobody's immune from it.
No.
I think. Yeah.
Whenever we can get back out, what does touring look like for you? Do you have plans to come outside into other countries, even as far as the U.S., or mostly just Australia?
Yeah, well, I'd really like to get to the US. I'd love to do Americana. That's something that is kind of like a bit of a goal. And this year, through the New Zealand Music Commission, I got to attend the Thriving Roots platform, which was like Americana festival online with speakers and stuff. It was very cool.
Yeah.
People like Rykoda and Bonnie Raitt and all sorts of people.
Sure.
So that was really cool to attend online. So I'd like to get to that, but we'd probably have to bring something from Australia and New Zealand, like a joint effort to do that. I would have to be part of a joint effort going up there. But definitely Australia. I hope to get back to Australia and be back and able to tour by April, May next year. And I do have a festival here in New Zealand in January, so it's starting to wake up. But we have to wait for Australia to get its numbers down before we'll be allowed to open a travel bubble with them. So they've still got COVID over there, but if it gets down to a decent number, then our Prime Minister will allow us to travel there and back only. Yeah. So Australia, of course, is our neighbour. It's only a 3-hour flight away, and it's where most of my work is based. I work with Australian artists every day, publicity level, and that's that's where it is for me.
Yeah. We've been talking about the current project, but you also have the Asquith, right?
Asquith Sessions.
Sessions.
So
tell me about that.
So that was recorded at the same time, but we sat on it basically. We had a very sad thing happen in the middle of that. We one of the guitarists, the crew that do the music are called the tracking crew. Mm-hmm. They were called the tracking crew, and James Gillard on bass, and Buzz Bidstrup on drums, and Rick Mallet, and Glenn Hanna. And Glenn Hanna, soon after the recording of my album in the Asquith Sessions, unfortunately took his own life, which was a big, huge shock to all of us.
Yeah.
of course, he was all through the video and everything for Asquith Sessions, and we didn't feel that it was... We went ahead and released my album, but we didn't feel it was kind of the right timing to release the Asquith Sessions, and we'd sit on that and let a little bit of time go by, and we were very, very, very sad. The whole industry was incredibly sad, and so it didn't seem the appropriate time to release it. So we're now releasing it, and we've got out so far, we've got young John Abo, who you shared on a page on your website, and he's the first artist. And so what the Asquith Sessions is it takes songs that are, well-known or famous songs, and they would do like a new interpretation of that song. They would do their own interpretation of that song, and then there's vocalists come on front. So the next one out is George Washing Machine. Funny name, I know. He's a quite a well-known, amazing jazz fiddle player down here, and actor and all sorts of things. And he came in to play fiddle on my album and on the Asquith Sessions, and he leads out the next track, which is coming shortly, and that's Bob Dylan's version of I Want You by Bob Dylan. So he's doing a version of that. And that's coming out at the end of October, beginning of November. And then I've got a version of a 1929 song called I'll Fly Away. Which is my Asquith Sessions song, and that's coming out at the end of November. And then later next year will be a version of John Prine's Angel from Montgomery, which is done with John Abo and myself. So
awesome.
So they're the Asquith Sessions. So they're just a digital release, and so that's the project, to release that, and then I hope to get back to do some more recording in April. So
new project.
New project. So that's the way forward, really, from here. And got a Christmas song out in between, Southern Christmas Stars, Not a Reindeer in Sight. Of course, we have Christmas in the Summer. That's coming out. That was done at the Asquith Studios as well, and is coming out on a compilation in New Zealand, Merry Christmas New Zealand. So that's coming out. So we'll give that another little push out for Christmas. Because we just don't have any snow at Christmas. we have barbecues in the sun. That's quite different.
That's awesome. Well, good. Well, this is fun. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about your music. And if people would like to connect with you, and especially on some of the other things that you've got going on besides your music, or if they would like to listen to the newest project or some of your previous music, what's the best way to reach out to you and get in touch?
Well, through my website, which is www.alycook.com.au. So that's a .com.au for Australia. That's my website. And on Facebook, find me on there. So at Aly Cook Music, or Twitter at Kiwi Aly. And Instagram at Aly Cook NZ.
Good.
So
good.
So I'm on all of those platforms, and I'm always. I'm mainly hear from lots of other artists who are wanting to help, get their music out to radio in Australia, because that's what I do as a day gig. But definitely with the music. I'd love to come and play the States, actually. I've been to Nashville once.
Good.
Good. I recorded a song on my first album called Country Storm. I recorded that in Nashville with a guy called Chip Martin, and I loved it. What I loved was getting off at the airport, and there were more musical instruments on the baggage carousel than there were bags. It was cool.
Right. That's awesome.
Good. It was a good spot. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Aly. I appreciate it. It's been fun talking to you.
Yeah, great talking to you too. It's such a clear, beautiful line. It's hard to believe we're 13,000, miles away, kilometers away from each other. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's one of those things that Facebook is still good for. So it's good that we could do it this way.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of Americana Music Profiles. Find us on iTunes at Americana Music Profiles and on the internet at AmericanaRhythm.com.